To Catch a Predator is arguably amongst the most polarizing television shows ever produced. Hosted by Chris Hansen and broadcast on NBC's Dateline, the program was created with the intention of raising awareness about online child predators and bringing them to justice.
Undercover operatives posed as underage boys or girls online, luring suspected predators to a physical meeting with the promise of an intimate rendezvous. The suspect would be confronted by Hansen and subsequently arrested by police. However, the show's methodology and the intense public scrutiny it brought to its subjects led to a number of tragic outcomes. Some argue that while the intent behind the show was noble, its execution was sensationalist and lacked proper oversight. Multiple individuals exposed by the show took the easy way out by ending their own lives. Their stories have been a focal point in the criticism of the show's ethics and practices. In this two-part series, Lamont and I will be taking a deep dive into several of these disturbing cases. We begin with the case of Bill Conrad Jr.
Arguably, the most notable of these shocking cases was 56-year-old Bill Conradt Jr., a district attorney from Texas. Conrad was attempting to solicit an encounter with a decoy posing as a 13-year-old boy. After avoiding an initial meeting with the decoy, he was approached by police at his home on November 5th of 2006. As they tried to arrest him, Conrad fatally shot himself. Found among his possessions were several illicit images of minors on his laptop, as well as a workbook titled Investigation and Prosecution of Child Sexual Abuse from a recent district attorney's conference. The workbook contained corresponding notes written in his handwriting, suggesting Conrad had read it thoroughly and understood that he had already committed the crimes of online solicitation and possession of CP. Being well aware of the legal repercussions of his crimes, he chose to end his life instead of taking responsibility for his actions. His death led to significant media attention and criticism of the show's tactics, as the aggressive nature of the confrontation and potential public humiliation clearly contributed to his decision. In 2007, his sister, Patricia Conrad, filed a wrongful death lawsuit against NBC for $105 million in July of 2007. NBC called the lawsuit meritless and filed for dismissal. Judge Denny Chin ruled against NBC on the merits of intentional infliction of emotional distress and civil rights violations. The suit was resolved in June of 2008 for an undisclosed amount.
Dr. Maurice Wallen. Though not immediately after the show, Dr. Maurice Wolin, a former physician and cancer research doctor who appeared on the program, also took his life. He was caught meeting a decoy who he believed to be a 13-year-old girl. Though he initially denied the charges against him, after a 3-year legal battle to clear his name, he ended up pleading no contest. His wife divorced him and was granted custody of their 2 daughters. In addition to all of this, his medical license was later revoked, ensuring he would never work in such a capacity ever again. He was placed under house arrest for 2 months, served 3 years probation, and was required to register as a sex offender for the rest of his life. He admitted in an interview that he had made a terrible mistake that cost him his family and his career. After receiving counseling, it was determined that he was at medium to low risk of reoffending. He would even get back with his wife, and he seemed to be getting his life back on track to some degree. Despite this, the long-lasting impact of the public shaming eventually led him to end his life. On the evening of January 6, 2021, he used a belt to hang himself at his home. He was 62 years old.
Ernest Timmons was a tech sergeant in the U.S. Air Force. He struck up a sexually charged conversation with a decoy posing as a 13-year-old girl. Shortly thereafter, he requested the decoy to greet him at the front door completely nude and promptly drove to the address to have a quote-unquote quickie. Upon arrival, he rejected the decoy's invitation for refreshments and conversation, making it clear he merely wanted to go upstairs and quote-unquote get busy. After being confronted by Hansen, he became extremely nervous and began sweating profusely. Like many others, he spun a wild tale to Hansen to explain his presence. He claimed he had been set up by a fellow airman named Kevin and dismissed his explicit chat with the decoy, claiming he was just quote-unquote joking around. Timmons went on to tell Hansen that he was scheduled to be deployed to Iraq in about a week and a half. As you may have guessed, this never came to fruition. He seemed to be more concerned about being kicked out of the military than he was about receiving a lengthy prison sentence. While in police custody, he intentionally stopped taking his life-saving medication to avoid his inevitable dishonorable discharge, as well as having to serve any time in prison. On September 7th of 2007, Timmons died of liver failure at the age of 33. Those affected most by his sick perversion, as well as his selfish and cowardly yet tragic decision to end his life, were his loving family. He left behind a heartbroken wife and 2 young children.
This brings us to the end of Part 1. In Part 2, we'll be discussing James Wiles, Chuck Harding, and Jeff Stacy. In the meantime, please subscribe to Lamont's channel as well as mine, Mad Cat Mysteries. Link in description. Also, make sure to click the notification bell to stay up to date with both of our channels. Part 2 will be out shortly. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.
Hey everyone, Drew here from Mad Cat Mysteries, and I hope you enjoyed the video you just watched. If you did, you can click on the subscribe button below. I'd appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.